Thanks, Anthony, and welcome. I know that's already been done today by Andrew. You don't get much time to watch TV when you're a senior coach, but there's two ads that are favourites of mine. The Rhonda and Katut cereal that just goes on and on and on. There's Trent Toogood's arrived on the scene, so it's going to be interesting to see the way it plays out. And my other favourite ad is the NAB ad where Joel Selwood is explaining the virtues of what happens when you don't kick well for goal to a young, eagerly listening young boy. And it took me back to 2007, and it mightn't surprise you that Joel won this award that year, but every Monday morning he'd be in to do his clips with me at about 7:30, 7:45, and then he would proceed to go about the rest of his week. And one day he played exceptionally well, but he kicked one goal for. He actually made a mistake. Joel Selwood made some errors. And another coach heard us doing our clips and he wandered in. And this is maybe where the ads come from. I can't guarantee it. But he was explaining to Joel in his own unique way. He had an incredible capacity, this coach, and he now coaches the Port Adelaide Football Club, to give direct feedback without offending anyone. He's an amazing coach and an amazing football person. He explained to Joel that, Joel, if you kick the ball between the little stick and the big stick, you get 1 point. But if you kick it between the big sticks, you get 6 points. Now, if you'd kicked all those balls between the big sticks, we would have won by 11 goals for and not 7 goals, whatever it was. So maybe that's where it came from, but it almost was like Joel talking to the little fella and Kenny Hinkley talking to Joel. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? We're all here because we've been footy-fied. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to try and have a go at explaining it, what it's done to me. And it first hit me at the age of 4 at the 1963 Mid-Murray Grand Final between Naya and the all-conquering Lelbert Football Club, who hadn't lost all year. The Naya boys contain 3 McCartney brothers. The coach, my Uncle Bill, the gun centreman, Graham, my dad, and Uncle Doc, who was a famous senior sergeant in the West who ended up becoming a great Western Bulldogs patron and member. And he had a way with words, Doc. He once described himself as a cross between Buddy Franklin and Tony Lockett. A good mate of his, who was also a very good judge, refuted the above, but he said there was a couple of correlations. Sure, Doc was a left footer, like Buddy, and just like Plugger, he had 2 arms and 2 legs. But he said that's where the similarities ended. The person standing here talking today was actually the mascot that day. I still have the photo to prove it. In fact, when it came time to run on the ground, I froze in a fit of panic and went no further. The sea of faces, I don't know how many people were there that day, certainly wasn't MCG crowd, and the blue and gold streamers spooked me and I stopped, and I don't remember much of the rest of the day. I was only 4 at the time. But what I learnt over the journey, listening to my dad and their family and friends that came in and out of our house, was to win that day, they'd have to play out of their skins and they'd need a lot of luck, because the team they were playing was all-conquering, unbeaten, and they had a dead-eyed Dick full forward who never, ever missed. Well, legend has it, with 2 minutes to go, the dead-eyed Dick got the ball 20 metres out of goal. You guessed the rest. He missed, and they hung on and won by a point. Some 40 years later, I was lucky enough to go back to that area for their first grand final since the 1963 triumph and help with training, and just give them a little bit of a talk about winning finals and what it means to do your bit and play your role in a grand final so your team and your club can get over the line. It's funny where footy takes you. I grew up idolising those boys that played in that premiership, and there's no doubt about it. Country towns are the world champs of pinning nicknames on people. In that team, Bluey, Tiger, Nifty, Happy, Lefty, Champ, and my all-time favourite, Chesty Coburn. When you were born into our clan, it wasn't hard to be footy-fied. Dad played at the highest level. Somewhere in our family exists the letter that the Footscray Football Club sent him to come down and train. That year was 1954. Pretty famous and symbolic year in our club. The Rose brothers were family friends, Collingwood greats. And a Geelong player by the name of Bill Ryan was a great friend of Dad's. Bill Ryan was the Jeremy Howe 40 years ago. And for you young people in the room, YouTube him, number 26 at Geelong. It's a lot of fun to watch. As a way of life in our family, Sundays dominated the week. We went to church and we only ever ate after the World of Sport panel. Only ever, when the panel was finished. Sweets got fitted around Mark of the Day and the wood chop. Young ones in the room, you should YouTube the World of Sport panel. It was organised chaos, but some of the most amazing football people came together and espoused the virtues of footy and who was going to win the flag. There was no 3:20 game, there was no 4:40 twilight game, so we got kicked outside to kick and scrap and tackle and harass and wrestle for the rest of the day, and we did it as well as we could. It was fun being Bulldog, Jezza, Hudson, Nichols. Again, for the young people in the room, I'll translate the names. Cochin, Murphy, Nat Nui and Hawkins. They're amazing players, those boys in the old days, and I guess the value of, or the beauty of being able to be in the game for a long time is you see so many great people through the generations. And don't worry about the old boys. If a press was on, back in those days, or if there was tagging or an open forward line, or they were packing up the stoppages, they all would have been fine. It was a simple life, it was a good life, but it was a footy life. There's 6 of us children in our clan. Mum and Dad are now gone, and they've all walked the footy journey with me in different ways. They all communicated in their own style. During any one season, one sister will text, "Bren, are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine." Another will send, "Hang in there, you'll be fine." Or sister number 3 will text, "Breno, they're hating you on Facebook, mate." Or 2 weeks later, "Geez, don't Tim and Andy just love you?" My youngest brother is a civilian. I use the word civilian to describe non-AFL footy people. He's forever optimistic and full of great ideas. He's a great footy man. My other brother, well, he doesn't text. Not sure whether he doesn't want to or he doesn't know how to. The translation for him not communicating is, get on with it, quit your sooking and harden up. For me, though, it doesn't really matter. Just to know that they think enough is the important bit, because we're a football family. Being footified can take you across a myriad of people, experiences and landscapes. It's amazing the bonds and friendships and memories that it creates for you. I remember once on a cold, wet day at North Geelong as a young and skinny kid, I was getting a lesson, and it sort of went like this. A big burly opponent who I'd kicked a couple of goals on said, "Son, you get another kick, I'm going to belt you." Might surprise some people in the room, might not. I chirped back. My lights were about to go out when a guardian angel arrived. My coach, Johnny Schofield, arrived just in time and knocked him out. John Schofield, bless his soul, was Will Schofield's dad. It's a small world, footy. Just a couple of years later on, an older boy, I was having my character challenged at half-time by a really irate coach. Just a young man making his way in a really competitive game of footy. I left the rooms at half-time bereft of confidence, not really wanting to go back out there. We can all relate to that, with these words ringing in my ear. If you don't lift, you're not going to get a game next week. Right on cue, another guardian angel appeared. He put his arm around my shoulder and said, "You follow me around for the next 10 minutes and I'll make sure you get a kick." He then proceeded to give me 3 goals, one after the other. That man's name, John Scarlett, Matthew Scarlett's dad. It's a small world, this game. In fact, some events can leave an incredible impact on you. And you hope when you're needed, you can be a guardian angel when it's your turn for the next generation. Isn't that how it should be at a footy club? The older boys help the kids and the leaders create the environment that is right. The month of September is a great month of anticipation and excitement, or in our case, it's a month of reflection. And you know, for us, it's the latter. It's hard to switch off a footified football brain like mine. You get asked your thoughts on who's the best coach, who's the best young player. And it got me thinking. I was looking at the coaches in our game. I stopped at Al Clarkson, a coach I respect incredibly. And I started to imagine Clarko as a contestant on the block. He'd be a handful, wouldn't he? Scotty Cam would know he's alive. And I started to think about our young players, and I linked it up with the show Survivor. O'Meara, Crouch, Loston, Wines. Imagine those boys as contestants on a show like that. Competitive environment. I look around the room, I see the faces of young men who are recognisable, but not as recognisable as they will be in years to come. I also see the faces of people that I know well in the various clubs who just work tirelessly to shape, mould and give their young boys the best opportunity. But most of all, I see the proud faces of the parents. It's a proud badge, the parent of a young player who is better than most wears. It's our national game, and every young boy wants to be the next star. So the parent of a young boy who is already recognisable in our talent pathways, they also become recognisable. There's Brad Crouch's dad. There's Lockie Whitfield's mum, they say, at the local footy. When in fact, when you dig a bit deeper, they're no different to any other parent. In fact, if you scratch below the surface, what you have seen is they've gone above and beyond. The travel expenses, the support mechanisms they put in place, they're the crutch for the bad news and they're the leveller for the good news. Usually their brothers and sisters have been footy-fied as well. Generally the whole family is footy-fied. When I close my eyes, I can still hear the words of Margot Ottens in 1997. She said, "He's a quiet boy, a good boy. He won't let you down." She was right about her boy Brad. I still hear the words of Rick Harley when his son became All-Australian. He rang and said, "We both knew he would do something special one day." There was a lot more to come for Tom. To share an after-premiership beer with Ted Corey, Gary Enright, Cameron Ling's dad, Andrew Mackey's dad. It wasn't hard to guess where the decency, integrity, humility and determination came from. To have Joe G and Syracusa, cut that out, spend game day on the road with us in Tasmania recently and hear him speak about being one of the great days of his life, watching his boy Daniel prepare to play. To see the tension, feel the tension, embrace the unique smell of a footy change room. To witness the exhaustion and fatigue of the boys after the game. He got to share that with his son. I have a feeling that Joe was footy-fied before that day, but even more so now. To the boys who we draft to our club, my pledge to them always and their parents is that I look after them like they were my own son. The responsibility is then mine to deliver on that pledge. It's a responsibility I'm happy to accept. It's something that's been building in me since that day in 1963. One night recently, you do have some unique experiences with your boys. I was watching some vision and I started to get frustrated at what I was seeing from this young man. So I messaged him. It went something like this: "I'm seeing some poor habits emerging in your game. Please come and see me tomorrow so we can work through them." Within 30 seconds came the reply: "Sweet, mate. Can't wait to see you tomorrow." It got me a little agitated, so I sent back: "This won't be a social chat, mate. We need to fix this up." 15 seconds later: "Sweet as, coach. Can't wait to get in there and get better. See you tomorrow." We worked through the vision the next morning, and as he walked out, it got me thinking about his future and this boy, the person, the man that he was going to be. His future's going to be brilliant. He's a good listener, he works at his craft, and he can already deal with the tension, stress and scrutiny that this game throws at you. Young people with talent who have those life attributes, they're our next champions of the game, and I'm sure there's many in the room today. And as this world changes so quickly, the one thing I don't think we should ever forget, that the fundamental principles of life, they haven't changed. Honesty, work ethic, respect, humility and commitment to doing what's right. We're all privileged to work in this industry. As tough as it gets, as brutal as it gets, we must all respect our clubs, respect the game, respect the governance of the game, and most of all, respect each other. Thanks so much for listening.